come along with me as I do something I never do and enter an art contest. 1000 is doing an art contest for their TTRPG, and they gave us short notice and decided I'm going to do it. So first I started off with Yogi Bear. I drew this for my boyfriend because he's into yoga and he's gay, so Yoga Bear. I'm going to use this pose I drew as the base pose from my redesign because I want to draw the Tarsee as a sort of like aged, ancient trickster monk version of the card, thinking once they got to a certain age, they no longer had to be around someone to hypnotize them. They could put that out into the jungle and then have people bring them their riches. So they could be like just kind of hovering there in a temple amongst all the stuff that they'd hypnotize people to bring them. So I needed that pose, and I had already drawn it for Yogi Bear, so I'm going to use it as the base here. Here I'm just doing the line work. You can see I have my Tarsee reference. I did a thumbnail for this, which I very rarely do thumbnailing, but I did it for this because I needed to plan things out because this has to also go for a card. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. At some point, I kind of just stopped recording because I only had we only had like less than a week notice, or I did, to get this done, and I really had to hunker down. So here you see me doing all the shading. I tried to pick the colors that are in the original card on the backpack and of the fur. So it still is kind of sort of in the color story, a little bit. But yeah, you can see here I'm working on my shading. I actually had to break this off into its own file because it's such a huge file. And I hit my layer limit like super early on. So here's a time lapse of me working on this. I am working on my line art, getting it all. I like to do colored line art, so there is an easier way to do this. I chose the harder way. Usually I would draw out every element as its own separate line art layer. I didn't do that, so now I'm paying the price. But now I get to start the fun, which is the shading. I love shading. I like to do very cool, fun shading. In this respect, you'll see a little later on, I did the background very painterly, and I kind of wanted to do the shading on him to be a little more graphic, so he stood out against the background. I don't know if it worked. We'll see. But you got the floating jewelry, you got the rings, the bracelets, all that cool stuff, and I actually love how he came out. Now, here's how I do my lighting. I'll do a gray layer and then erase the parts I want to be the light. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it works really good for directional lighting, for me at least. And then I'll go through and add shadows back in, subtract shadows, so on and so forth, until I get exactly what I want. Okay, here you see me buffing out some of the highlights, working on making the fur a little less one-dimensional, and we're about to start on the background. Here I am just really roughly drawing in shapes and shit. I am going to end up painting this by doing a really fat marker brush and just going in with a highlighter, doing highlights and shadows, back and forth. I put my little gold layer in just to see where I want them all, and now here it is. I'm really just defining by further adding highlights and shadows, really trying to get that sense of dimension, sense of depth in this piece, adding a little bit of moss, yeah. And really just trying to refine the space. I did the background walls the same exact way I did all the blocks, adding some foliage, some vines, and really trying to create a sense of like atmosphere here. So yeah, now that I've got my depth and atmosphere, I'm going to add some funny Easter eggs. I'm going to add the instigators, which you'll see in a lot of his paintings. I'm going to add a little beanie. I'm going to add a crown inspired by one he did one of his paintings, and a sword because I like swords. I hope you guys enjoy. I will see if I win. I doubt I will. But this was fun to do. I never really enter art contests, but I wanted to stretch my legs and draw something different. And I also really love his art. So, you know, that's it. Wish me luck, because I will need it. Bye.